Okay, everyone. Hello and welcome to this workshop on serendipity in the international track of this year's summit. My name is Kirsten and I'm happy to see you all here. It's great to be able to be here, actually. Yay, for reasons. And I hope you've been enjoying yourself so far. Yes? No? Maybe so? Yes. Okay, maybe some people will still be checking in, but I suggest we'll start. Serendipity, how to boost your entrepreneurial awareness by making use of happy accidents and lucky discoveries. What is this? What is this? What are we doing? How many of you have heard of serendipity already, are familiar with the term, with the word? A few? Yes? And have you gone all the way back to looking into how it came into the world, where it's come from? Okay, so this is a workshop, so we'll be doing an exercise and interactive parts as well. But before we do that, please allow me to give you a short introduction on how serendipity came into the world, because to switch on your awareness for this phenomenon, maybe it's helpful to find out a thing or two about what it is about. So this workshop basically will introduce little tools and life hacks to you that'll help you acknowledge the power of happy accidents and lucky discoveries, actively invite the unexpected into your life, and make the most of these lucky discoveries by developing new routines, boosting these serendipity effects. Routines, the word always sounds a bit boring, maybe. Oh yeah, routine, but it can actually help us anchor ourselves in the complexity and dynamic of today's life. And so there's helpful routines and routines that maybe tend to make us, make our world ever smaller and tend to make us feel stuck somewhere. And there's new routines that might help us open up new perspectives on new things and engage in new interactions, new circumstances, new contexts that help us find out things that we had never expected before. So why am I here? To share my ideas on serendipity with you and find out how it has been working. It's mathematically based magic for you already, and how you plan to integrate it more into your future. I'm a business model coach and startup coach. An hour ago, I was here with Florian from the Komponentenportal and another nice colleague, Markus, who takes care of logistics for entrepreneurs. And I'm a content producer. Originally, I studied art history, literature, and media, and I've worked as a journalist and free writer for the longest time. I still love to tell good and inspiring stories if I find the time. And so storytelling and content producing is one of my core assets. I'm a scanner personality. It's always been a challenge for me to focus, because I always think, oh, this is interesting, oh, this is great, oh, wow, this is inspiring. So, there's those people who, when you asked them at the age of 3, knew what they wanted to become, and they said, oh, I want to become a dentist. And they knew it, and they were so certain, and they turned out to become a dentist. And it's great, if you are wired like that, but what if you're not? I'm definitely not. My journey has been very adventurous and colorful. I won't bore you with the details, but it's led me to work with many different people in many different branches, areas, countries, working in inspiring networks in all sorts of branches and all different mindsets and where people come from. So I've always enjoyed to indulge in people's uniqueness, if you can say so. And the phenomenon of serendipity has actually been a major asset in my life so far. And it has had a huge impact for the longest time I can remember. So apparently I've always had an affinity and have somehow mastered to focus on the activities that I'm doing at the time, but still always allowing enough room to be open for the unexpected. And a few years ago, by serendipity, articles came into my life, books came into my life, who shed new lights on the phenomenon, because I'm also not just a serendipity fangirl, apparently, but a senior lecturer and researcher at Berlin School of Economics and Law in Berlin. And so I've started to read different literature than I used to when I was still first of all, working as a journalist, and all these papers came into my life, and I thought, wow, there have people actually been looking at this phenomenon and writing papers about it that helped me sort out my intuitive approach. And ever since then, I've been systematically going deeper and deeper into this phenomenon and working with it with my clients, with my coaches, with my students, with my friends, trying it out with everyone who can't run away fast enough. And it's had amazing impact on people's lives. And it's so interesting. So when I found out that I tend to look at each and every step and decision and approach and networking and course and class and research and podcast and book and everything, all the little snips and bits that I find as possible windows to new and endless possibilities, I thought, wow, yeah, this is something I have to share. So, and this is why we're here today. The more attempts we make to embrace the world in a way that we do not get overwhelmed by the world, but that we can actually decide what to metabolize at which stage in our daily routines or weekly routines, the more colorful and the broader our perceptions become. So how do we work with all these new bits and pieces that we gather along the way? I already said that I will take a few minutes to tell you a bit about the discovery of lucky discoveries, or how serendipity came into the world. And because serendipity is, first of all, a very sonorous word with a fabulous story. Yeah? I talked to Andreas about it before when we said, why am I not doing this in German, not my mother tongue? I said the word Serendipität is even harder to pronounce, and serendipity, I think the English language does us a favor here. Because originally, the first time the word serendip came into the world was through a fairy tale about the three princes of Serendip that used accident and sagacity as an obstetrician for progress. And they were discovered. This fairy tale from the 16th century was written down and then rediscovered in the 18th century by a guy named Horace Walpole, who was an English writer and art historian who mentioned this in a letter to a friend. And as an art historian, being an art historian myself, I thought, oh wow, that is nice. And he said, look, this is such an incredible fairy tale. These guys, okay, what in a nutshell is this fairy tale about? The three princes, brothers, sons of the king of Serendip, which was a place in Sri Lanka, they were set out on a journey. Unknown territory, unexpected encounters everywhere along the way. They didn't know what was going to happen and what was to expect. And like on every hero's journey, they had tasks to master, challenges to overcome. They were threatened, they were seduced, they were inspired by everything around them, and they managed to talk themselves out of things because of the way they closely observed and combined all the things that they had observed to make it a plot that was actually true. So by their unique way of observing a series of chance events and then combining these loose dots to something that didn't just make sense to them, but that actually was part of the solution of the riddle, they were really successful and managed to get along very well. And this was the phenomenon that Horace Walpole thought was really worth sharing with a friend and worth mentioning in a letter. And this is why we today have a name for this phenomenon, which otherwise probably would have been lost in a fairy tale long forgotten. So the prince's peculiar alertness and ability to connect small and big and seemingly distant dots to something useful, meaningful, and important, their ability to connect loose dots to matching pairs turned out to be a great asset. And this ability of those princes, of that fairy tale, is basically the core of the serendipity principle today that become an asset for us entrepreneurs as well. Due to limited time, the limited time that we have, I'm afraid I will have to skip that part in history where serendipity was mainly used as a placeholder for chance happenings in science and technology. That part is strongly linked to defining serendipity as the finding of things without seeking them. I put up the little cover of a book on here, which tells actually 77 of such serendipitous inventions and innovations. Some of them you have probably heard. So examples you could know, the invention of penicillin, of Post-its, of Teflon coating, of microwave ovens, chemotherapy, artificial sweetener, chewing gum, Viagra, coffee filters, even spaghetti ice cream were discovered by accident. Yeah? Not by someone getting hit by a car, but just by, oops, I meant to do something completely different, and now look what this turned out to become. Amazing. But this is in a world that is already so crowded as it is, and so busy as it is, and where the most meaningful inventions could be to reduce things to the max or see what do we not need anymore. Yeah? We'll focus on an advanced and more structured approach that can help you find different new ways for discovering things. One that is of value to alert individuals, citizen entrepreneurs, as well as experienced entrepreneurs and experts in their field. Because like I said, the VUCA world, the world of volatile and uncertain and complex and ambiguous surroundings, sometimes calls for less than more. So one could say, on the one hand, serendipity is a mindset. That's why we're taking the time to look at the introduction of the history of this phenomenon. What is this? And it is, or it can become a method. Yeah. So once you get to know and better understand serendipity as the process of identifying meaningful pairings of two or more observations, events, of fragments of information that can be put into strategic or practical use, then you can really start developing routines that help you and developing routines that you stick to invite more of this treasure into your world. And this is what the exercise that we're about to do is going to introduce. Okay, so how can we do this? How do we open the door to serendipity? And why doesn't everybody already feel it or live it in a way? We really have to prepare ourselves for the unexpected. One of the main reasons, Daniel Kahneman has written a lot and enough beautiful words about it, is the two ways of thinking, slow thinking, fast thinking, the two tracks we have and we take. And I'm really glad we do have the fast thinking, the fast lane, because otherwise we would just go knackered. It would just not work. And it's always important to make room in your lives and to take time to really, metabolize, digest, let everything that you took in sink in, and switch off all devices and just, see how you can come back to your energy. But then again, when you go out, and especially when you're in places like these, yeah, when you go out and mingle, what can help us? It can help us to embrace hitches and chances. We have to learn to unlearn what we know. I don't know, it's like, you know, sometimes I have a tendency, maybe all of us do, to say, yeah, seen it, been there, I know. It's like not really paying attention, not really listening, because we hear a word that triggers something within us, and then we think, yeah. And we just, you know, our mind just goes on fast forward and completes the whole thing. And the other person opposite is maybe like, yeah, but that's not really what I meant to say, or that's not really what that was about. So unlearn what we know. Kids are beautiful masters for that. Just, yeah, embrace the inner child mind who is really, wow, ready to be astounded by everything they find out there. Look at it with a fresh view, with a fresh perspective. And especially entrepreneurial thinking is so much about unlearning what we know. Because if we always just build on top of things that we know, we'll never really leave the range of things that are already there, you know? So we have to get out there somehow, but how do we do that? So resist the temptation of fast thinking. That's one major step. Embrace hitches and chances. Circumvent our biases. Biases. Yeah, like I said, I love them, but they can be really tricky when we try to get a fresh view on things. So we tend to underestimate the unexpected. I mean, there's so many biases, books about that, but I just brought 4 that are especially anti-heroes to the serendipity mindset. So underestimating the unexpected, conforming to the majority, post-rationalization. Yeah? It's like when you look back, when you look through your rear-view mirror, you're always like, yeah, you know, it's always meant to be that way. Sorry for everyone in the stream. I keep forgetting I have the microphone on for the whistle. When you look through the rear mirror, everything looks so logical. But when you take time to see how you really got there, it looks more like, I don't know, rabbit on speed, yeah, going back and forth and just going all sorts of directions, and then there are those bumps and there are those peaks, and that's why I'm so bad at pitching who I am and what I do, because I always want to tell the whole story. I love every bump, I love every peak, and I know how important all of them were for me. And so trying to streamline it, yeah, to a rationalized story is always a challenge. So when you build your life and when you build your entrepreneurial journey moving forward, learn to embrace the bumps and the peaks and everything that is crazy, and everything that at the time maybe you thought was irrelevant or so tiny that you could barely look at it without a spotlight. Functional fixedness is another bias, that we are just too narrow-minded on looking at certain aspects of certain things. So we have to learn to pay attention to insignificant things, to noise. You'd say, oh my gosh, you know, it's so noisy as it is. When I go outside, I usually take my, what are they called in English? The noise-canceling headphones, Yeah? Shut out the world. And of course, there's times where this can actually help you stay sane. But if you go through life, with noise-canceling deflector shields, you'll never be able to feel the magic, you know? You never really get there. So it's really about throwing yourself out there and then seeing how you make the time to come back and gather your strength. So the circumventing our cognitive bias sounds easy. And to do so, we first, with the phenomenon of serendipity, have to acknowledge that we do have them and that they are helpful as well. They are trying to protect us, yeah, from going mad. A lot of them are. And a lot of them maybe are just bugs in our software, I don't know. But we have to acknowledge that they are there and see how we deal with them. Pay attention to insignificant things, to noise. Can be something you overhear. Can be something that, yeah, that you see, just a sticker somewhere on a lamppost, you know, just, what is this? Zoom in and look at it. So one essence of this creative act of opening up yourself to the world of serendipity is to see familiar things as strange and to allow yourself to see things that you tend to shut out because the world is so crazy and crowded as it is. Yeah, so how to boost your entrepreneurial awareness? First of all, by being here at the summit. Being here at the summit and deciding actively to look into this phenomenon, see what it is about, find out what it is about, and by committing yourself to starting your own serendipity journey today and now, because what we are about to do for the next 15 minutes after this short introduction is dive into a little exercise. The first 5 minutes, each of us for ourselves, and then 10 more minutes. If I see you're all bubbling, of course, you know, we'll give it a bit more time, exchanging with others. Okay, so here's the question. Within the last 6 months, or 6 weeks, or depending on how busy you've been, 6 days, or on your way here, ever since you first read the program of this year's summit, you pick the frame that you want to look into. Can you name 3 lucky but unexpected moments? And what did they have in common? Any discovery that was not sought, any discovery that was being sought but found in an unexpected way, any discovery whose use is different than originally planned. And remember, every step, every decision, every approach, every impulse that you received, every interaction that you had could have been a possible window for new and endless opportunities. And you were maybe just at the time not aware that you were just encountering a little treasure because you were busy doing something else or running from A to B or whatnot. So I'm inviting you to dive into this world of happy accidents and lucky encounters now. And this is actually your first step to connecting dots to new matching pairs. Any chance encounters, any delayed or canceled journeys, human errors, other mishaps, things where you thought, what is this at the time, but what actually turned out to open up new windows of opportunity. I don't know, do you have something to write? Does anyone need a pen? I see a lot of people already taking notes. I remember asking for paper, but all I got was this beautiful, well set up digital infrastructure of broadcast technology. So I might have some pens, but I'm afraid I don't have paper. If you want to take some note, you don't have paper, just feel free to ask someone in the room to maybe help you out. Yes, absolutely. But the exercise is separated in 2 parts. One, the individual reflection, and then the exchanging with a peer. And so what's the time now? It's almost 3. Yeah, so in 15 minutes from now, that would be 4 minutes past 3, we'll continue here as a group and see where it has taken us. Yes, please. Anything that comes into your mind, that is the beauty, you know. If you find something that is more from the world of the insignificant, little noise, fine. If you had something really groundbreaking, breathtaking, just dive in, everything. Sure. And to everyone watching us via stream, I hope you're already taking notes. So this is for you too. You need more than one. You need more than one. Okay, you're all set. So how are we doing? Would you like to have more time for your individual reflection, or do you want to just share something with the person next to you, or do we want to jump right back into the plenary discussion? Hi and welcome. You just got here. So we're just in the middle of this exercise. I'm afraid you missed the introduction, but we're just in the middle of this exercise on serendipitous moments that we gathered, and we'll sum it up and help you on board a little later. Wow, everybody You are amazing. Sorry for interrupting and making use of my mic. I could listen to your bubbly live interaction forever. This is such a beautiful noise that I and maybe many of us have been missing for long. This is really beautiful. So I would say the box of serendipity is definitely open. We opened it. Huh? Okay. Eric will teach me the correct pronunciation later. I know, but the German word is still better, worse. Okay, so the box of serendipity is open, and you have made maximum use of your time. I'd love to give you more just now, but I'd like to wrap it up also, and you have all the time in the world to continue your exchange later on. So maybe let's gather a few voices. How has it been? Has it been easy to come up with things or find things? What did you find? Does any of you want to share with the others? I have a microphone that I can pass around.
Okay, so
is it on? Louise? Do we have to choose between this mic and that mic, or can we have both on? Okay, so we'd like to have both on. Sorry, I didn't know that this was... Okay. No, I think... Yeah.
Hello?
Yay, you're on. Try it. Go again. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, English, so no problem. I'm better both languages. So, okay. My life is based upon serendipity falls. I could already think in 2 minutes about 3 stuff happened to me. And even more about my travels. Well, last time, for example, it happened yesterday. I was taking part to their Friday for Futures demonstration in Berlin, and it was supposed to be over at 4. Instead, because of the storm, dawn, disaster, weather, with the rain whatsoever, the demo was over already at 2. And so I was like, okay, what to do now? And a friend of mine asked about eating something because he was rather hungry. And so I did have lunch, but I told myself I have nothing to do else, so I just gonna join with him and have a second lunch as well. And I love Japanese food, and he guided us towards this restaurant where it is just sold, ramen sold, and well, I had definitely a good time, even more when it's about eating, and a lot of stuff relating those lucky accidents about eating mostly, and enjoying views of some places I would have never looked up on maps, but they do happen when trains are missing or whatsoever, so I always just go with the flow for any incident. If someone is by me and they say, okay, let's go there, I'm gonna go with them because I love just new stuff.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for sharing. So a great example for how spontaneity, now I'm insecure, I don't know how to... Spontaneity can help us encounter things that we would not have said if we had stick to the plan and said, no, I'm not going to do anything else, and if this is not working, then I'm not going to do anything at all. So just go with the flow and see where you end up. Thank you so much. Would you pass the mic on to the lady in front of you? Thanks. Leila. Yes. Hey, Leila. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I just turned it back on. Quick question, am I allowed to use an example that's older than 6 months old? Otherwise I can go with one that's much more recent, like yesterday.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, I just thought I'd start somewhere and go, because some people say, I don't even remember what I ate a week ago. So, but of course, you know, when you go back in your CV, in everything that you've lived so far, there must be moments like these.
And it goes back to the question of complexity, because the reason I'm here today is simply because yesterday I did the pre-summit and realized, which I normally don't do, these pre-events, I'm like, are they really worth it? And heard out of the comments that were being made that, and looking at the app, that it said about Audimax and all these Hörsäle, and I was like, what? I didn't think it was going to be in presence.
Oh, wow.
I thought, yeah, because I had not received any communication from the event. So,
oh, look at that.
No, it's fine. So just because I went to the pre-event, if I'd only joined today, I would not have made it to Berlin. And yesterday, I just dropped everything and decided to come spontaneously.
Wow.
So that's a very little complexity example.
Yeah.
And then one that's many years ago now, was hilarious, and friends of mine will say, and that's why I find it a good example, and my family, they'll always laugh and be like, yeah, it's so typical you, trusting what's to come and not always overthinking. So I went to work at a bar, and this person used to always be there, and he happened to get talking with this other customer who I'd never met, and I actually found him a little arrogant and annoying, when I used to really enjoy talking to this customer that used to always, one of the regulars that used to always come. And fast forwarding, I happened to not accept the number of this person that night because I took too long to go change after work and come back for a drink, and this person had already gone to the hotel. But because I'd been serving them all night, I'd remembered their hotel room number. So I did a bit of a dodgy one and went to the hotel, which was part of the complex of the bar, and said, look, I would really like to leave a note for this person who I remember his first name and I remember his room number. And if that's a match, then could we please leave him a note? And of course, people were thinking what they wanted to think.
Nice one.
But this turned out to become a role over in Sydney for 2 years, 2.5 years. It helped me pay for my master's degree that I could do at a university in Sydney. And it ended up, because of the work experience I gained at that role, it ended up scoring me my dream role in my dream city over in Western Australia, which I never was able to foresee. But without that experience and without that time, I never would have been able to fill that role. And so, yeah.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Example.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing, Leila. Because examples like these can really have, it gives me goosebumps. It can have such an impact on our lives. I remember talking to a student of mine who worked with me for half a year, and she said, you know, actually the reason why I am in Berlin and why I'm studying entrepreneurship and succession is because I don't smoke. Like, what? So apparently she was at a New Year's party, and everyone was running outside to have a cigarette, and her and one other guy were not, stayed inside, had never met before, didn't know each other, and they're like, okay, so we don't smoke. And then they started talking, and she found out that he just got his own startup on the way, and she resonated to his idea, and they got into this really intense conversation that ended up her working with him on the startup and her moving to Berlin and then enrolling in my classes. So you never know how and when and where it hits you, and that's a really nice example. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Am I meant to say anything about the things I see in common, or do we do that after?
What they have in common?
Yeah, because that was one of the questions.
Go, if you're...
okay, just quickly, because I think it's, first of all, sometimes just trust and jump for something, even if you can't see why you're going to do it. If you don't have any good reason not to do it, and if it doesn't, you know, hold you up or anything. Like coming to a summit like this, don't overthink it. If you think it sounds interesting, just go. Because you'll never know what to expect, and you'll never know what to find. You might not go away and have a huge major revelation, but you may well do. So I think that's really important. Don't question everything. And don't try and understand everything either. Don't always plan either. Just go and do, and just find out on the way. And I think that's really attached to, accept that you don't always see the big picture, that hindsight is a beautiful thing, but trust your journey and trust to continue. Stick to your guns, stick to who you are, stay authentic, and then you'll end up seeing the bigger picture in hindsight, and you'll see how far you've come.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a hand for this. Does anybody else want to share what they've encountered? Anything on the summit, maybe, that you've experienced? I mean, we could go on and on forever, probably, but I think we've heard some great examples. Yeah, don't overplan, stay open, like with the example of, you know, plans change, what do we do now? And so you remember at the beginning of the exercise, I asked you to take notes, and most of you already have a notebook or do take notes somewhere. Sometimes it just hits me. I mean, it hits me several times a day, and sometimes I don't have a notebook on me. So I just take my notes on everything that I can find, you know, the back of just, I don't know, little receipts or any scrap of paper I can find, because now we are entering this part of how to systemize these things that unexpectedly happen to us. At the end of each day or at the end of each week, if you may be working with weekly reviews, yeah, I like to do a weekly review each Sunday and see, wow, so what is it about with the last week, and what's still on the agenda, how has it been, what did I get off my list, and what happened to me that was not on the list and that I had not actively invited in my life, and that was not there. And I make room for that too. And then I go through all these little scrap notes and everything and put them in a treasure box or do something with them right away. You know, best example last times, I mean, algorithms, they can be shortcuts that make our world smaller, but sometimes they can really be helpful. I wanted to go to bed early, thought, oh, I'll just read this article that was pushed into my timeline, and I did, and I found a core piece of literature that I need to read for my PhD that I'm currently writing. And I'm like, oh my God, wow. I've been researching for literature for months now, and and I had not found that. And there it was last night at 1 o'clock. So I was like, all psyched up. So sometimes you find things and you do something with them right away, but sometimes you just put them in a treasure box and then choose a time and date where you look into them again. But one of the key things that I found are so helpful is to make it a habit. Keep the diary, start the diary, keep up on your diary, make it a habit. So basically everything that helps you to set up a serendipity-friendly environment. Yeah? Spread ideas, successes, failures. You never know who, like the student of mine who just happened to be a non-smoker. And you never know when it hits you or where you find new, additional, helpful perspectives on your view on things. So connecting with others, what you do here, what we all do here, what entrepreneurs do, because they're just, they want to share. Yeah? People like-minded people similar, as well as people from different fields can open up different approaches on the same issue. Another thing, allow to break out of routines. Allow yourself to take different routes to and from work. What I do once a week, actually, it sounds so small, but even that has had an impact. I usually take my bike to my office if I don't work from home, but usually take my bike. So once a week, I intentionally do not take my bike, I walk. And I walk different paths to and from the office every week. And I've lived in the city for 21 years now. And just last week, I walked through a little street and I saw a little store that I had not actively been looking for, but I thought, wow, I didn't know that you are here, and I actually need what you have, or in that case, it was a location that I need for a little event that I'm planning. But it was like the perfect little setup. And I've been going through that road on my bike for, I cannot tell you how many times I have never seen that store before. Walking, slowing down, having a different perspective and angle on things myself, I did. So I took a picture, put it in my digital folder for serendipity scraps at the end of the week, wrote an email, said, hey, you know, blah, blah, blah. So that's how you can learn to manage those things. You don't have to do everything right away. Sometimes you cannot. But what do you do to not lose what you found? So challenge your inner autopilot at all times, you know? Every time when you think, yeah, seen it, been there, know it. So just take a step back and allow the unexpected to walk in. Start from opposite directions, turn things inside out, upside down, I don't care. Just challenge the existing state. And maybe when you're waiting for a bus or something, don't just grab your device and zoom into that world, but just take a look around you. Just take a look around where you are at that point in time and see what you find. Maybe something will find you. And like I said in the beginning, there is a time for everything. I really like to compare this whole process with breathing. You know, we have to breathe in, we have to breathe out. We need both to stay alive, apparently, but we can't do both at the same time. And I think it's the same with focusing and with opening up. We need both. Both is important, both has its relevance, but we can't do both at the same time. So make sure to go back and forth between moments where you consciously focus and moments where you consciously decide to go wild and just embrace everything that might be happening to you. We're already at the end of this little workshop, and it's like sometimes with coaches or with my students, I like to do this like over the whole term, you know, and then every 2 weeks we come back together and say, what did you find? What happened in the last 2 weeks? And we share. And it's amazing to see over the course of a few months what actually happens. Students of mine who met each other through university and have now founded a successful business. Just everything can happen. I would really, really love, because I'm looking into this phenomenon deeper, the researcher in me, and I would really, really love to see how this little impulse might be working in you in the future. And I invite you to keep me in the loop on, are you working with the Serendipity Diary? How has it been working for you? And I challenge all participants of today's workshop, be they here or in stream, please drop me a note on November 23rd. That should be a month from now. Should be enough time to have a lot of unexpected things happening. And drop me a note on coaching@kirsten-kohlhaw.de. I'd love to see where your individual journey with serendipity has been taking you. Because if you learn to find your routine, not everything works for everybody. You know, some like to have an analog diary, some like to work with, I don't know, Evernote, Trello, you name it. Any sort of digital notes. Find something that works for you and then maximize the effects. It's been great seeing you here. Enjoy the rest of the summit and happy to exchange some thoughts if you're up to it. Thank you very much. Here, for people who like books as much as I do, if you want to maybe dive into some of those, some are papers, some are articles, some are books. I just collected a few of my findings in literature that have helped me better understand of what I have been intuitively doing for such a long time now. Thank you very much.